This is Tennessee Talks with United States Congressman Tim Burchett.
Hello, I'm Congressman Tim Burchett, and welcome everybody back to Tennessee Talks. I'm glad to be joined this episode by my colleague from the 1st District, I believe, Tennessee delegation, Congresswoman Diane Harshbarger. And I wish if you'd we thank you so much for being here, first of all, and it's been a pleasure working with you. I met you a few years back, and it's been a delight. And you're a pharmacist by trade. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank you so much for being on Tennessee Talks. It's great to have you on the show. We're going to ask you a few questions.
Okie dokie. I'm ready.
Go for the juggler. You're a little over a year representing Tennessee's 1st District in the House of Representatives. How's it going so far?
Oh, it's going excellent. You know, it's an honor to represent people in East Tennessee. I mean, there's no better people in Tennessee, period. So it's been a learning experience. You know how it was when you first got up here, and yeah, I'm sure you were in the majority. I'm in the minority. I
was
in the minority.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're in the minority.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it'll be different next year, don't you?
I hope so.
Well, I'm going to say a special prayer that happens.
I hope the Lord answers your prayers. Well, we got to do something with it, though. That's the key. Well, tell me, what are you currently working on?
Well, I'm working on a whole lot of things, you know, I'm on Department of Homeland Security, and I'm also on Ed and Labor. And the subcommittees on Homeland are cybersecurity and critical infrastructure, and then, of course, oversight. And then Ed and Labor is higher education and workforce development. And then the Help Subcommittee. Listen, Tim, what am I not working on? We have to work on legislation to take the country back. A lot of Ed and Labor things. I just worked with Mark Green on a bill because Tennessee parents had said, look, there's obscene literature in the libraries, so we have to get rid of that and let parents know that it's there.
Right. I saw a video. It wasn't in Tennessee, but it was a lady was reading some stuff to the school board, and she said, cut her mic off, the chairman of the school board said, because that is inappropriate. And she said, exactly. And she was reading stuff out of the books. Well, and that's... I have a degree in education, family of career educators, but what bothers me is these parents are being demonized. And when I was in education, the key to one of the keys to having a kid that's successful is having parent involvement in the education.
Yeah, and
they've done everything they can to discourage that, and that's unfortunate. So I'm glad y'all are actually working on that, and I know that. Some other things they've been working on, these fires have been raging through Sevier County as they did a few years back. And what are you hearing from your folks? I know that we haven't had any fatalities that we've heard of.
Well, I met with Mayor Waters from Sevierville yesterday, and of course he said that they had lost like 230 structures or something, and that's in the Wares Valley areas. And so that affects both of us, both districts. And so that's under control, basically, and they're just looking for help for that. And we have to go through the governor to get that help for them, but we'll be more than happy to do that. I'm just thankful that no one died.
Well, the last time it was just a horrible tragedy. The people I knew people that actually had died in that fire, so that was horrible.
It's terrible, absolutely.
And I know that some legislation just passed the House for the federal government to establish some so-called price controls for insulin. Of course, I voted against the bill because it would shift health care costs to insurance premiums and other prescription drugs. And it also does nothing to address the reason why insulin is so expensive in the first place. And you also voted against the bill.
Yeah.
And as a legislator with a background in pharmacy, it was good to look up there and see us voting together on something that I knew that you had some internal knowledge of. Could you explain why government price controls are such a bad idea?
Yeah, you never want the government to set price controls, especially on medication. And, they really set this bill the way it's explained to me to help the Democrats, basically, one seat in Georgia and on the Senate side. So you never want them controlling the pricing of anything, especially medication. they're going to try to sneak that H.R. 3 in with legislation and Build Back Better more than likely. So we have to be wary of that. And H.R. 19 is the alternative to that. And being in the Doctors Caucus, one thing we do talk about is revamping healthcare.
Right.
And there's other ways to do those price controls, but the government is not, they should never be involved in that. We're going to have less medications that we can use for especially rare and ultra rare diseases.
What I thought was interesting was that the out of pocket for most folks would be the same or even more because of it. And it didn't do anything to what it said. It just shifted the cost to others.
Oh, do you know what they said? It says it actually raises premiums on seniors and the 217 million Americans who rely on private insurance, just FYI.
Right. Well, so that more out of pocket, just shifting the cost to somebody
absolutely.
else.
They'll get it one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, sticking to the topic of prescription drugs, I know something I've heard you talk about, and I wanted to specifically ask you about it, was the Chinese Communist Party is a big supplier of prescription drugs, and they use the components, the vital components.
Oh, yeah.
And, and some of those active ingredients that we use in drugs in the United States. Mm-hmm. I wonder what some of our vulnerabilities are with countries that like us face when we depend on China for these products. I think COVID during the supply chains issue, it really brought it out. But you articulated that point very well. I've heard you on that many times. Yeah. I wish you'd talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's a travesty when we have to rely as a nation on an adversarial nation for 90% of our active pharmaceutical ingredients to make the medications that we use in this country. That's a supply chain issue. For example, back when the pandemic first started, in 3 weeks, the pharmacy that I had, it was out of antibiotics. You couldn't get antibiotics. You couldn't get supplements. You couldn't get PPE. None of that was available. That's just in the 3-week period. So we never want to find ourselves being reliant on an adversarial nation like China or India. And not that they're adversarial, but I see how that's going because China sells a lot of those APIs to India.
Right.
I'm finding out. And honestly, it's a direct threat to our national security. We need to be self-reliant. And I've said that for the last 25 years. And now it only took a pandemic to let everybody know.
Let everybody know it. You were correct. You're a modern day prophet. Yeah. Well, I know you're on the Doctors Caucus. You mentioned that. And of course, it's a group of representatives that have healthcare industry experience. They're not all just MDs, but people that are in those roles all around it. Mm-hmm. Is the group, are they working on some Republican alternatives to some of the Democrats? Bad, that I think are bad big government ideas.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the innovative portions and some of the new modalities in medicine and some of the things we can affect by lowering cost on the consumer. And that would be pharmacy benefit managers, for one thing. That's my area of expertise, being in the pharmacy world. But, there's a healthy task force is what Leader McCarthy had instituted, and that group is going to be able to develop policy for 2022. But H.R. 19 is that alternative plan that they went to the Doctors Caucus even before me, or even on Energy and Commerce. And they have a plan that will be an alternative to what the Democrats want as far as H.R. 3 goes, to where you'll have more cures. You won't stifle the growth of these biotech companies that are making those innovative products that'll save lives, for God's sakes. So, and there's several, there's 19 of us. There's doctors, pharmacists, dentists on there. And we'll be having more coming in when this new class comes in as well. I'd
hope so. Yeah. And I know you're also on Homeland Security. I know John Ketko out of New York is leaving.
Yeah.
You have jurisdiction over the disaster, the complete disaster, which is our southern border. I wonder, have the Democrats in charge of that committee or the Biden administration officials shown any interest in working with Republicans to fix the problem at the border? They sure don't. It doesn't look like to me with the recent revelations, it's just getting worse.
Tim, let me tell you what's going to happen if they do away with Title 42. People are already lining up the border. On May 28th and 29th, we saw 9,000 illegal aliens come across the border in 2 days.
Wow.
There'll be 18,000 a day is the projected numbers. And now we know that's going to be greater than that. What are you going to do? I've already heard that what they will have are buses. And this is real. They'll have buses to transport them into the interior of the country without processing them. They do not have enough Border Patrol agents to do this. They're demoralized as it goes.
Yeah, I was going to say the ones they have just been.
God.
I mean, the president, when he attacked him on the one guy on the horse, showing like he was whipping. But if you knew anything about horses, which I write checks for horses, my daughter rides them, but I knew that situation. The guy was holding the reins, and sure enough, they showed the reverse of that picture, and that's what the guy was doing. He was not whipping the guy, and the president just completely insulted that man, and then never offered an apology, never gave the conclusion to their investigation.
Yeah, really, they haven't, have they? They've never given a conclusion, nothing. And that's what's going to happen. And, I talked to Newt Gingrich. I went to a Border Caucus meeting with him. And what he said was, we're never going to be able to round all these people up. What you're going to have to do is assimilate them. And what that means is you're going to have to do things like health checks for these people or do criminal background checks in order to get those people out. And now we're going to have the projected numbers are 2 million more on top of the 2.5 million, 2 million more in 6 months.
Well, and you also, it was released that there was some on the terrorist watch list. And the Democrats said that was in fact an error. And then we asked for a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, and it turned out that was the truth, that several of them were. And, of course, the liberals are going to say, we caught them. The system works. The system does not work. It's the ones that you don't know that are coming over. How
many? We got 500,000 gotaways. We don't know where they came from, where they went, or who they are.
2 million in like 11 months that we know of, and so you can double that on what it is, what we don't know. Well, when we both return to the House next time for the 118th Congress, I'm wondering, what are you looking forward to working on?
Well, my goal is to work on anything that I have a little expertise in, and that's going to be healthcare.
Right.
In the district, just like you do, we have TVA. Energy policy would be something I would look at. There's just a lot of problems that we need to fix. And one thing that the whip talked about was what we're all going to be involved in is oversight. Yeah. It's going to take 2 years to uncover what's already been covered up to try to find out some of the answers to the issues. I want to know what happened. Why do we not know where the Wuhan virus originated? It's simple things that we've been talking about for 2 years that we don't have answers to.
We don't have answers. I agree. My biggest fear is that people lose interest in all that. And we got to keep it. We got to keep it pertinent, and we got to keep it fresh.
It's got to be in front of your face. It's kind of like this war with Ukraine. If we don't keep talking about it, it's going to continue on. And I saw something on TV today that said it may go on for years.
Oh, yeah.
What a travesty.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you have any questions you can ask me?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
I just want to know how old that Carhartt coat is you wear.
The one currently is it's about 4 or 5 years, I think.
Is it?
It's
still looking good.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I was I go through several of them. When I was mayor, there was a group, left-leaning group, of course, that was doing a skit, and they had somebody playing me, and they were making fun of me. And I didn't care.
Gosh!
And they didn't have an official Tim Burchett Carhartt, so I sent one over. And they laughed about it, and they, I guess it kind of softened the blow. I'm sure they still took shots at me, but I've been wearing that thing there's pictures at Litton's of me, and I guess in the state Senate. They're over 20,
my gosh.
Over 20 years ago, I used to wear it. I wasn't trying to wear it to be cool. It was just, as Maxine Waters, when she caught me on the elevator one time, she said, "Are you that white boy that always wears that that Carhartt jacket?" And I said, "Yes, Madam Chairman, I am." And she said, "Why do you wear that?" And I said, 3 reasons. And I said, "It's American made, it holds up under pressure, and it's cheap." And she laughed and said, "We're going to get along just fine." And she'll walk by me today and give me high fives. And I told her,
kidding me?
I said, "Please don't do that where CNN or C-SPAN can catch it. It'll cost me an election."
My God. Well,
but she gets a big kick out of me, and I get she loves my accent, and we have a.
Yeah, you're the expert.
She always
from
makes fun
of me
on that. But
I'm telling you. Well, I wanted to ask you that, but how long have you been in politics altogether? I know you were at the state level and then the mayor.
16 years in the legislature, 8 years county mayor, and 3 years up here, and so, but I've been, I worked in campaigns since I was 4 or 5 years old.
4 or 5.
I mean, I can remember in my overalls out in front of West Hills Elementary School. And I can remember the 1968 election. I was 4 years old because I still have a pin. Nixon Agnew. You turn it one way, and it's Nixon, and turn it one way, and it's Agnew. So
boy, that's a good one. Start going to these vintage stores, try to find one, Tim.
Yeah, good luck. That one's a valuable one, but anyway,
Well,
you got to watch them. They make a lot of bootleg ones, so you just got to be careful.
I promise I won't do it. I have one more question. How long have you been married?
Oh, dadgummit, you got to ask me that question. Kelly and I were talking about that last night. I don't know, 6 or 7 years. I don't know. You have to ask Kelly.
You got to miss a few anniversaries to really be married for long enough. I'll be married 40 years this year, so it's one of them things.
You're a good woman. But my wife is cool about it. She loves me. I love her. And she said, baby, I'll never get after you. You got a lot on your mind. Trying to remember that. She says, I'll just remind you when Isabel's birthday is, and we're going to be just fine. So
that's the way I say, happy wife, happy life.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to end this thing.
Thank you, Congressman Harshbarger. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Yes.
Fist bump.
Hey, fist bump.
And I'm Congressman Tim Burchett. I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of Tennessee Talks. Thank y'all for sending me here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tennessee Talks. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Keep up with Congressman Burchett by following @Rep Tim Burchett on Twitter and Instagram, and @Congressman Tim Burchett on Facebook and YouTube.